All right. Okay, testing. All right. Hello and welcome back to the Gamer's Tale. This is a special edition tonight, as we don't have our normal scheduled game this week. This is going to deal with the adventures of Hitch, Patton, and Rick Orange. The reason is, when we left our heroes, the party had been decimated. Half of them were down. Their friend Jit was also knocked unconscious, and it was just a bad situation. So, using their quick wit and even quicker speeds, Hitch and Orange escaped Jit's temple and have now made their way out into Misathorn, trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do next and save their compatriots. Maybe. So I'm going to say it's been minutes since we left off. You guys are moving out of the streets. I just need to check something really quick, because why not use game mechanics? You might. Okay, as you're being carried out, Orange, you see a familiar individual walking back from what would be the equivalent of the southeasterly direction as you guys whip out of the temple. It is not. It is the strange fighter that the rest of the party referred to as John. No. You have never met John. Oh, sorry. John was kind of around, but he really wasn't. No. You never met John, except for that. Yeah. Yeah, that was the first time you guys met John. So, seeing as that the wings kind of glow, and while it is foggy, that's kind of obvious. John, true, yes. Either way, you get John's attention. He stops and he comes over, and he's dressed in normal traveling clothes. He has an iron or steel breastplate, a shield, and a black hilted long sword in a decent scabbard. Can I help you? You see what I can only describe as a burning look behind the eyes of John as he looks toward the temple, and you can see he contemplates just rushing in there right now, but you see whatever guides him kind of went over and says, I guess we'll have to go another time. Thank goodness I travel light. Alright, let's see if we can find a place where we can discuss things. He winds his way back towards Trade Town and brings you guys to an out-of-the-way store. I believe it is the yellow one. Were you guys there for when they were talking to... Oh, yes, you were. At least Hitch was. He brings you to Jit's Lady Love's father's store. And he just opens the door without provocation, ushers you guys inside, closes it, locks it, puts the close sign up, draws the drapes. Okay, I need you to walk me through everything that just happened and what you have available to you right now. Well, I'm glad to know that Lundgren and Tread are dealing with some pretty decently intelligent individuals. Even that shirtless man. I understand the feeling. I understand. I was imprisoned here for months before Lundgren and them freed me from the chain gangs, and it did not sit well with me either. I do, and it's part and parcel to what I asked the group, to your friends, to help me with before. They're going to take them to the hole, because while it might be a necropolis, there's a lot of things down there that are more infrastructural than anything. And while you guys are doing, if whoever can actually roll, you both probably have an equal amount of knowledge on this. Roll me a history check. If not, I can roll it for you, Q, if you don't want to get the thing up. Damn. Okay. No, I'll allow it. Just for thematic reasons. Okay. The way this guy looks, how he has his haircut, the way he's shaved, where he holds himself just clicks in one of your briefings, Orange. This is the Tempest King of Senless. This is one of the rulers of the 3 known kingdoms within Olden. This is equivalently of meeting one of the presidents of the United States on the street at random. He waves it away. You would, after that jogging the memory, you would know that about within the last 5 to 10 years, he rose to the throne of Senless through bloody conquest, overthrowing their Mage King, and ascended the title of Tempest King. Yes, Olten and Senless have a very tenuous peace between them. That is the Dervish King and the ancient oaths between the Dervish King and the Tempest King, essentially keeping peace. You wouldn't really know, but the way he is handling himself here is that he is used to dealing with dirty people and doing dirty work. And he's more pragmatic than anything. And what you would understand of him is that he's a very pragmatic leader. Ruthless, but he cares for his people. Hmm. Of course. Well, seeing as however many monks just assaulted you and essentially kicked your asses, I don't think we should probably try to steal from them right now. That's an untenable position. What is that we need to get into the underground, into the hole, and find the armor that goes with this. And he draws out very carefully, the black-hilted longsword at his side, and you see very faintly that there is this very intricate pattern of like silver inlay on the blade and the hilt, and it looks way too similar to be a coincidence to the tattoos on the anti-magic monks, for lack of a better term. You can roll an Arcana check. You would make the connection. You really would make the connection. It would be best that it did, seeing as my very presence is an anathema to magic itself. Through the research that I have done and was informed of by ya boy, the family lineage that I have comes from Gantivos. And back in the Platinum Ages, there were a set of somewhat modified human beings who were designed specifically to fight the arcane should things get out of hand. And that is what resulted in me not being able to use magic, or have magic used on me, except for a few spells, as your friend Tredscala was able to determine. However, a number of items, such as this sword, were made specifically for people like me in order to essentially extend magical abilities to us, while making us immune to what we'd be facing as mage slayers. He says as he looks through his notes. You turn into a hobo visually. Yes. This guy's self. Well, my concern is not necessarily Sinking in, everyone uses the hole. Whoever has died recently is tossed down into it, if they have not already become undead, and it is very much an open cesspit, but without the sewage. Thank gods. Getting down into the necropolis is extremely easy, nor is it extremely guarded as well, as it's in the center of the city. But the real dangers come in when we get into the older parts of it, because the undead of this land, while numerous, the older versions seem to be much more powerful. And some, I hear, are yes. Some can even pass through them. I've been around for maybe a week or two. I heard there was a tussle up in... not Lilburn. What's the other one? Checks notes. Yeah, I heard there was a number of problems within Gilliland and Dimgrave, but most of my time was spent walking to here. I think that was Gilliland. Yes. Well then. I see Lundgren and his people haven't changed. They always bring an interesting assortment of people with them. Well, I prefer to be in the thick of it, preferably at the front. Well, I don't think we have as much time as we would prefer. They might start searching through Jitsunon's associates. Thankfully, Oleg's daughter has already left, and Oleg himself is amicable enough with everyone so that he'll just carefully roll over. He won't cause himself any trouble, and thereby not cause us any trouble. He kind of looks around and checks the place. Well, we should get moving. True. Thankfully, Oleg is a bit of a paranoid man, and I think he sent her off, as he's planned, much earlier than expected, after hearing of a movement of individuals throughout the city, which seems to have been your monks. To be honest, I have no clue. I would prefer to be down the hole as soon as possible. Hello. He if he had a watch, he would check it and be like, fine. I can wait till tomorrow morning. Perhaps a good night's sleep. Yes. It would be about 10 a.m. All right. The undead are more active at night, especially the more powerful ones. So while it might be considered safer, the probability of us running into something that we may not be able to handle right now increases when the darkness comes. Possibly, but once you get in the pit, it's probably best to keep moving until we find what we're looking for. Mm. Yeah, just to read. I'll wave the DM hand in this that there's gonna be no combat tonight. I'm not gonna wave DM hand about that because by the time you guys actually start doing anything towards essentially breaking them out, you'll probably have had a long rest between that point and now. So, so, so yeah, I'm not gonna run you guys ragged and be like, hey, you have nothing, go rescue people. Hey. All right. He opens the door, checks both ways, beckons you after him, and leads you towards the pit, known as the hole, which is this black square. Okay. The world is danger. Alright, so as you guys go through, there seems you've walked the streets of Mazatlan before, and it doesn't seem too rowdy. Everything seems to kind of be about business as usual, except people seem to be a little bit more wary, as if word travels fast that something has happened to one of the local temples that was holding out. You guys come to the main open square within Trade Town, and the stalls are there. John picks up a couple of things along the way, and paying in cheap coppers, and just essentially it looks like he's picking up a few light snacks and it's like handing them to you. And it's like, all right, we know where to keep our strength up and to take our mind off of things. We need to keep moving, but we also should keep fed. After you make it through the center part of Trade Town, you come to an even larger plaza, and you see this massive hole. It looks like someone made a well, blew it up to about 1,000 times as its appropriate size, and then just sunk it to the edges, deep into the plaza itself. A good observation. There is no safety railing except for a few sets of boards that somebody set up long ago, and even then, they wouldn't do anything. He walks. He walks purposefully towards the edge of the hole, and you see that there are numerous different ratchets and pulleys and ropes that lead down into it, as if people go up and down it, like more like a mine shaft than a well. You can't see the bottom. You can see that there's various tiers and layers that have some movement, but for the most part, when you just look down, it just keeps going. It ends in darkness. Orin suddenly just kills a passerby. that does not happen. Well, and John grabs one of the ropes and kind of fixes it to his belt. Makeshift harness that's been laid out beside it. Says, "We should descend." He starts to rappel down. Not really waiting for you guys. Yeah. You guys figure it out easily enough. It's a very simple harness, but very durable in practice. And it's also very nerve-wracking to rappel down into what is essentially just pure darkness. It takes you a couple minutes to actually reach a solid surface that isn't like built into the walls. And at the bottom you hear the as the Tempest King lights up a torch and holds it aloft. And you're in a I wouldn't say it's like a discount version of the Mines of Moria, because that's the wrong vibe I'm going for. It's a large chamber. Some of it is collapsed in. Other parts of it are very much open. There are sarcophagi along some parts of the walls, and there are... Have you ever seen the pictures of the plague churches from France? It's something really similar to that. There's like bones all over the place. There's real skulls encrusting certain locations, and there's like people built into the walls. Do they have an atlas, or are you going to look at an atlas? Yeah, okay. Okay, I can work with this. And as you kind of look around, you notice that some of the skeletons are real, some of them are actually very well artistically made stone carvings. It's like a 3-to-1 ratio. Deerskin kind of pokes one with the butt of his torch. You're not gonna bite me now, are you? Yeah, gives a grin to everyone else. Well, bye. Bye, Q. Okay. Essentially, you're trying to say that your Arcana thing your history check should have been something like 17 instead of 7. Yeah. That does apply to the talent, but it only applies to skill checks, if I remember correctly. Which is Deception, Intimidation, Investigation, Perception, Sleight of Hand, and Stealth. Okay. Alright, so he begins walking in a direction that would kind of lead you back towards Jit's temple if it were on the top of the ground. But underground, you have no idea where this goes. And it winds, and the floor is surprisingly smooth, alternating between kind of native stone and cobblestones, and then large intricately made slabs of stone, like giant tiles. And it seems like this place was built and expanded over from how many dead people are down here, centuries. And the older stonework seems to be the large square pieces, and they seem to be of a much greater quality than the other locations. And the tunnels wind. They're not necessarily fully straight. Some of them are, but they're like connected with somewhat natural caverns. And it seems like you walk for another 20 to 30 minutes, and you're starting to feel a little lost. But the Tempest King seems to know where he's going. Okay. Yeah. So we go right, we go left, we go left, we go right. That's good. Okay. You effectively hide within the tunnel that has only 2 other people in it. As you make your way around, it opens up into a much larger, more opulent-looking chamber. There are a few larger sarcophagi, and I keep wanting to go. They look like the above-ground mausoleums in Louisiana, but they're in a well stone-crafted place. There's about 7 to 8 of them. One of them looks like it's been smashed over time. The other ones are intact and have reliefs and depictions of who was inside etched into the top in the form of like a statue. I've got the correct term for that type of design. But yeah, there's about 6 of those. Yeah. It's gonna. It's not. It's not like that. It's more like the European style, and I know there's a word for it. And it's gonna bug me all night, and I'm gonna remember it like right after I end the stream. All right, fine. I would help if I didn't have caps lock on. They are referred to as effigies. Tomb effigies. So it's like a statue that's built onto the top of the stone slab that covers the area that the body is put in. There are also no. Oh yeah, I've never seen Timeline, but it's very similar to the Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the mausoleum in there under the library. Yeah, I don't know why that makes me feel super old, but it does. There are also a number of other more upright statues set into recesses into the walls, and this seems to be a very important area. And there's a large, probably 20-foot tall door that comes to a point that comes down to the sides and stretches, of course, from that point to the floor. And it has like reliefs cut into it as well, and it looks kind of like there's 2 pillars on either side that end in these bony hands, like it's holding it up, very much like Atlas would. And there's kind of like a stone skull above the door. John just kind of looks at you like with the this whole place isn't foreboding look. Hmm. Bam, bam, bam. Emerald Legacy. As the light plays over the skull, you see like a glint of reflection. Like it almost looks like the skull looks at you, and you're like, oh god. But you, at closer inspection, there is literally just like golden mirrors or polished brass in there to make it look like there's eyes in it. At least you hope so. Okay. It's not covered in illusion, it is just really creepy art design. Yeah, you would see through illusions. So everyone else looks like, well, sees a hobo. Mm-hmm. Only fools aren't scared. He goes up to the door and he pushes on, and there's no handles at all visible, but there is a visible crease between the two halves of the door. Just pushes against it. You hear some heavy groaning as the door begrudgingly opens inward. He goes. The door is open with a heavy groan on their iron hinges. And inside is a peculiar cylindrical chamber. It looks round, but when you look at it a little more closely, it is very carefully squared off. So it's like someone tried to make a circle, but instead just got to the point where they have a bunch of edges. So it's not like 10-sided. It's more than 10-sided. But it's close enough to be a circle, and it just kind of plays with you. It just feels very flanged. Yeah. And each side is a little bit smaller than the main door, and they all connect into it. And it goes up into like a bishop's peak, like very much like the door itself, and it is essentially bullet shaped, this room. And in the center of it, there is a small dais, and it almost looks like grating around this dais. And there are kind of large square pieces of stone and glass and metal put throughout this entire, at differing heights within the room. If this were sci-fi, it would feel like the room is full of like TV screens that are unlit or broken. You mean flint and steel? In the center of this room, as you say this, and you notice that in the center of this room there is a figure standing stock still, And it takes you back a little bit. It's like, oh, we've just been talking in front of this guy, and you see that it's like an armor stand. It's just standing there, and it's this very almost Vanta black color with essentially it looks very similar to the armor of Sauron in the. It looks very similar to the sword, but it also looks like the flanges on the armor of Sauron in the Lord of the Rings movies. But instead of lots of hooks, but it's more like I can only describe it more as metal alligator scales. Like they all come up to these little ridges and they kind of interlock together, and you see that this has been an intricately made suit of plate mail or plate armor with a helmet, and it doesn't have the huge crown spikes on it like Sauron's would have had. But it's very close in, but it still has like a slight ridge around it, and every single part of it is essentially angular to a point with divots in between, if I'm describing it usefully. Yeah. You have said, yeah, just call me John. I believe it is. Hold this. And he hands off the torch. He very gingerly goes over to it. Like, carefully takes off the helmet, makes sure like there's no one inside. Okay. No, there doesn't seem to be any difference. There seems to be like a very faint, ancient, arcane feel to these flat slabs, but there doesn't seem to be any illusions currently. He carefully begins taking the armor pieces apart, and the inside of the armor, it looks like a cloth, like a cloth under doublet, like you would expect for a lot of plate armor. And he essentially just keep an eye out as he takes several minutes to don this armor. At the end, he like checks his hands, make sure that it fits good, and it's like, okay. This was little anticlimactic. He picks up the helmet and does kind of like a true. And he kind of looks in the helmet and he leans over to the torchlight and like that's kind of unsettling. It doesn't look like there's any air holes in this helmet. Well, I don't think so either. And he kind of shifts it on the inside. It looks like the front, where the face would be, also has a layer of glass over it. And there's only like two little eye holes on the outside of the mask, of the faceplate itself. And it also has like the little two holes, like it looks like a little two skull eyes. A little bit comically small and... Let's see, what would be the skill check for this? Insight is more of, I'm trying to read somebody. I would say it probably would be a combination of history and investigation. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, a lot of things are lost to time. This seems to be a pretty well made helmet, but this has. I'm gonna go with no because there's a thing that very rarely gets on my nerves, which is people trying to stack skill checks to see if they can divine an answer. It's like, well, he failed, so I'm gonna try. It's like, well, true. I guess that's the worst that can happen. He carefully puts it on. He carefully puts it on. So yeah, it's very muffled. It's a little stuffy, but and then you see the helmet like drop like half a centimeter, and you get this clack, and it's all of a sudden there is a kind of, it looks like, I forget which movie it was from. Either that or it's from Assassin's Creed. That very thin silver wire inlay that was on the sword goes from the top of the crown all the way down the body of the armor. And you hear, yeah, it goes, and you just hear this kind of snap hiss, as if kind of like a dwarven steam engine, but very small. And you see him kind of jerk just a little bit, and he breathes in sharply. It's like, okay, I can breathe now and see. And then then there's a very faint red glow that appears in the nostrils of the helmet, and these tiny little circles around the eyes, and it just kind of starts to glow out rather ominously in your direction. Okay. Well then. He kind of like checks the mobility of his neck. Kind of looks around. Does the little okay then head motion. This is not what I was expecting, but I think this is going to be very useful. He kind of takes a step forward. It sounds even heavier than you would expect a normal human being to kind of weigh. It seems like it carries a gravitas with it. It just kind of thuds forward. But it's not in like he's weighed down. It seems more like it suddenly has made him maybe a little denser. We should probably check to see if we can make our way to the prisons. And as he starts walking forward, you can hold on to the torch. I can, oddly enough, see fine. And as he starts to walk towards the other side of the chamber you came from, you hear thump, thump, thump. And he got stops. And as you look back, the tunnel that you guys came from, there is a large, hulking mass standing there. He looks like he starts looking around. He like starts looking around. He's like, he looks like he's going, oh crap! And this about 10 foot tall, it reflects the light that bounces off of it, very much like a natural glass. And it stops. It goes, "Who are you?" "We mean you no harm, friend." As he walks forward, it appears to be a golem of some kind, made, it looks to be out of obsidian. "Why have you come to desecrate this place?" "I didn't come to desecrate, I came to take what is rightfully mine." He kind of the golem looks towards John's now intimidating visage. "Ah, Mage Slayer. Or, sorry, a Mage Bane. Your kind hasn't been here in quite some time." "I am Igneous." He does this kind of half bow. "Alright, Igneous. What are you doing down here?" "I awoke from my slumber and found these undead roaming the halls. I even went up to the surface and smashed several of their kind to bits and their abomination of business. I did not expect that my awakening was because of Magebanes. Do you owe me any allegiance?" You can hear the question mark is very clearly in John's voice, as if it's wavering a little bit. "I might as well assist, although I am my own creature. I am not a slave as some other golem are." "How would you like to smash people who have perverted this land more than we have?" "I'm not averse to it." John turns to you guys like, "I think we have a way into the prison." "Who is Davy?" "Among other things." And you see that each of its knuckles got like chips and other things, so that they're actually kind of razor sharp. He sounds intriguing. Well, John kind of claps his hands together and says, "I'm glad we have at least a temporary compatriot. You know of the prisons, yes, Igneous?" "I know of the dungeons that they have co-opted recently, yes." "Do you figure you can get us to a place where we can easily get into where they might keep people who are above average in strength?" "Possibly." "Well, could you take us there now?" "All you have to do is follow." He turns and starts descending into the darkness. As Igneous is going away, you see John turn around and do an uncharacteristic double thumbs up, like, "I didn't expect that to work." Okay. "It might take a while," says Igneous, from ahead of you. And I think that is going to be where we end our mini session. You have a way in. You have a couple of new friends, and it's gonna be fun. John got a significant upgrade. Essentially, it makes sense. It makes sense for it's. It really is. It's a combination of anti-magics and machinery, which yeah, it feeds off of his own like anti-magical aura or properties, which is fun. And I kind of want to draw up the specs for it and put it in as a magical item for D&D, but we'll do that another time. So, that's essentially what it's for. I've seen other people use it for that as well. Who could just re-roll them. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end the session here. Catch us this Wednesday, or whatever order your guys are watching this in, for Lundgren's first D&D game. We're all excited. I'm definitely very excited. And we'll see what shenanigans we get up to then. Cool music plays as the lights go down.